Tornado on the ground. There's the funnel. Tornado. We saw a weak tornado just south of Calgary on Monday, July the 17th. I was actually out with the Steve Wallace. That's Camping with Steve on YouTube, and he actually documented the trip. I will link our experience that he shot in that video in the description below. It was quite a bit of fun that we had earlier there in the week. Now we're looking at the potential for more severe weather development here across Alberta through Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and even into Tuesday. South of the Yellowhead, it's going to be a little bit more conditional because we're going to be seeing capped conditions. So severe thunderstorms could develop along the foothills, bringing a risk of large hail and damaging winds as the main threats. A little bit more confidence in those storms taking off every day, though, as we get into northwestern Alberta, the Grand Prairie, Grand Cache, perhaps Fox Creek areas. So that's the Coles Notes version of what's happening. But let's actually begin to break down what we are seeing here across the province into Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and even Tuesday. We had some rain there, heavy rains across much of central Alberta Monday night and into Tuesday. Of course, that's helping kind of top up that crop moisture in those areas. And we are in that peak season where crops are maturing and they're giving off a lot of water to the air above it. And actually, what we're seeing here is a fairly classic Alberta severe weather setup on tap as we see that capping. That strong sinking air in general, keeping conditions capped to the east of the foothills. And we generally see moisture begin to build in those conditions where crops are not water stressed. They give off a lot of water vapor to the air above, and it doesn't get flushed out. So by Tuesday, when that trough finally moves across, we could be seeing an outbreak of severe thunderstorms once again across the province. Pretty much the only area in the province that's been seeing normal or even above average precipitation throughout the growing season has been in much of central, west central, and northeastern Alberta, but very dry in the northwest, very dry in southern Alberta, southern Saskatchewan, Manitoba, also quite dry there. And we can see that on the current dew point map here as of Friday afternoon. Little island of moist conditions here, mid-teen dew points in central Alberta, but very dry, mid-single digits there in southern Alberta and Saskatchewan. And that's basically where it's reflecting that the soil moisture conditions locally in those areas. Now, smoke here across the province over the next few days, we're expecting most of the smoke to stay to the north across northern Alberta with that easterly upslope flow, even a bit of southeast wind. That should keep most of the smoke to the north. We still will see some hazy conditions as there is a little bit of light smoke hovering around the province. But in general, over the coming days here, most of that smoke should stay to the north, so it won't be too much of a factor in reducing the chances of severe thunderstorm development. Now, taking a look at the forecast upper air, we're seeing here that jet stream really beginning to build into Alberta once again. You can also see that ridge, that upper level ridge here beginning to develop across the province, especially into Sunday there. We can see those height lines really begin to lift up across the province there on Sunday. That means that we have large-scale sinking air, warming temperatures in the mid-levels is not really favorable for thunderstorm development, especially east of the terrain. So that's why we're seeing conditional threat of severe thunderstorms to the south of the Yellowhead, especially on Sunday there as we move into Monday as well. It looks like Monday we finally start to see those heights start to fall later in the day. And it looks like Monday we could be seeing an outbreak of severe thunderstorms across west central Alberta there. And just taking a quick look at Tuesday via the Euro model here, we can see there's that jet stream developing here. And now as we get into early Tuesday, that upper trough / low kind of ejects eastward across Alberta and into Saskatchewan. So that could be the day that we see the more widespread severe weather outbreaks. So we're not going to look specifically at Tuesday just yet. It is further out into the future. But we will take a look at the day-to-day here starting on Saturday, and we can see here with that sort of upper low off the coast of BC and all the vorticity associated with that, it's well to our west. And when you have these sort of anticyclonically curved height lines, you tend to see not as much vorticity. You can still get these little kind of vort maxes kind of going through the flow, just rippling along that ridge. And we could see, the occasional little upper disturbance moving through, but in general, nothing major until late day Monday. So we're going to be keeping an eye out for that. At the surface, very hot conditions developing in southern Alberta over the next few days. That's just really going to dry out whatever soil moisture exists currently across southern Alberta and southern Saskatchewan. But to the north of that, on Saturday, Sunday, and into Monday, we're seeing, that more of that consistent easterly upslope flow, slightly cooler temperatures and more moist conditions, as we can see here with that sort of island of moist air there in central Alberta, kind of hovering through Saturday, Sunday, and into Monday. And that translates in terms of our ML Cape. That's kind of the superior Cape variable to use if you're making a severe thunderstorm forecast when you have these sort of well-mixed, sunny, hot afternoons. We're looking at the most realistic Cape here in the atmosphere. And on Saturday, looks like, fairly large Cape there, ML Cape, and showing not too much in the way of convective inhibition. It is going to be, just looking at the environment, though, looks like things will stay fairly capped to the east of the terrain. Might get some late day thunderstorms out there in eastern Alberta and Saskatchewan as well. But, it looks like here, west central Alberta, we'll just hit a point and click sounding here just to get a sense for what could be coming. And so just kind of a first glance, we're seeing if, assuming this forecast sounding is indicative of the environment, we've got this long straight photograph here. So that sort of tends to favor those mirror image supercell splitting storms, left and right movers respectively. We can see those both on either side here of the photograph trace. Some fairly large hail analogs, once again, baseball and larger for the largest stones that have been kind of observed with similar soundings in the past. So we'll have to keep an eye out for conditional threat of very large hail along the central and northern foothills. ML Cape values kind of in that 2,700 range, LCLs above 1,400 meters. So, we're looking at that, 35 knots of shear, very weak low-level shear, though. So it's not a tornado environment. It's more of a large hail and damaging winds environment, especially with that D Cape, that downdraft Cape of 1,000 or more in this area. So if we do get a thunderstorm develop south of the Yellowhead, we could be seeing risk of large hail damaging winds. We're also going to be seeing a higher confidence of severe thunderstorms to the north of that. Once again, Grand Prairie, Grand Cache east into that sort of Fox Creek, Swan Hills area. Going to be keeping an eye on that area for a risk of severe storms daily. Now, moving forward into Sunday afternoon, looks like that Cape is a little further east on the NAM. We can check with the Canadian here, and it actually has that Cape a little further to the west with 10-knot easterlies pushing into the foothills. Sort of west of Drayton Valley. So we could be seeing some more thunderstorm risk there along the central northern foothills. But in general, because we saw those height rises, it could also stay capped on Sunday. So we'll keep an eye out for that. And once again, back into Monday, we can see here, if we just flip back to ML Cape, a nice little island of large Cape starting to push into the central northern foothills. Once again, areas sort of from north of Rocky Mountain House, west of Drayton Valley, Edson area, and, a little bit further north than that, maybe into the Whitecourt region, we could be seeing a risk of severe storms. Now, I will actually click on a point-and-click forecast sounding for Monday afternoon and see how it compares to Saturday. And once again, very large hail favored with this sort of setup here. We can see still at 1,200-meter LCLs, large Cape of 3,000, 3 Cape 200, D Cape over 1,000. So I mean, we're just talking about, we're getting strong Cape and it's fairly close to the ground. So that would tend to be, good for low level acceleration in these thunderstorm updrafts. If you had, good low level spin, you could see an enhanced tornado potential with that. But in general, with that weak low level shear and no real boundaries present, assuming that's the case, it looks once again like a large hail environment. Now, I did see earlier in some of these forecast soundings here that low level shear begins to increase in the evening. Now, of course, I'm cherry picking soundings here by selecting, these forecast soundings in the center of the Cape bullseye. But once again, here in the evening, we can start to see that low level shear starting to ramp up with that low level curvature in the photograph, and a corresponding increase in that effective storm relative helicity. So perhaps, as we get into the evening hours, some tornado potential may be possible along the foothills with these storms. But in general, once again, this looks like a large hail and damaging wind sounding, at least through Saturday, Sunday, and into Monday. So we're probably going to be seeing some big hail in parts of Alberta over the next few days. And we're not going to look exactly into Tuesday just yet because it is still a few days out. So we'll have to kind of iron out the details as it approaches. But in general, it looks like we're seeing this sort of classic severe weather Alberta setup here with that building upper ridge, sinking air on the large scale, and it helps to kind of build and deepen the moisture in the low levels. And then it kind of all comes to a climax on the Tuesday or the day, whichever day that trough ejects eastward and we get that maximum wind shear speed and directional shear, strong storms, and potentially thunderstorms with all hazards possible, especially as we get into the peak of severe weather season here in Alberta through mid and late July. That's the forecast. Thanks for tuning in. And of course, I will be out there documenting these storms once again in the field. So stay tuned for all the latest.